Streets and Scholars. Alex Alonso posted up with FG. Here to bring you guys another banger. And it's America's birthday this week, FG. Anything special going on?
No, nothing at all. Another day like the other one. Another one like the other one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So shit ain't nothing special about it. You know what I mean? So, but it's all good. How
Yeah,
about you?
I didn't do nothing, man. I'm just posted up with the family, with the wife specifically. My kids is out of town. They enjoying vacation, and we just chilling here at home. And I was a little surprised. Boosie said he never even knew what July 4th meant. He just knew it was a holiday.
No doubt. There may be a whole lot of other people that's the same way. All they do is barbecue and drinks. You know what I mean? So hey, you know what it is. They
Yeah,
call
man.
it one thing, but in actuality is a lot of people disagree with the holiday period. So like I say, just another day for me.
Because we sure wasn't independent on that
No,
day.
no doubt, homie. So like I say, man, some people may feel one way about it, but in reality, for us, man, wasn't nothing independent about us. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
but how it is. You give people a chance to get off work and eat and drink. They'll take that.
Yeah, I think it was at least another 100 years, almost another 100 years before they emancipated the slaves, and even that wasn't. We still wasn't really free after that. So
Right, damn right we wasn't, but you know.
hey, we got to come up with our own a holiday for non-white folks. I don't even know if we free now.
No doubt, or start celebrating the Juneteenth more, you know what I mean? Really get into it, but at the same time, they not even recognizing, even though they labeled it as a federal holiday, jobs and stuff like that, not recognizing it. They like, just like it's another day for them, but it's supposed to be a federal holiday.
Well, I don't believe we're free when our sisters have to get on stage and twerk and shake that ass to make some money. I know some people find it entertaining, but that leads me to the first topic, man. And India Arie tried to keep it real. I don't know if she's gonna get some backlash, but she criticized Janelle Monet and Megan the Stallion for just being freaky up on the stage, man. I'm a little sensitive to it. I don't think you are so much. What's your whole position on that?
Well, see, my whole take on it was I had to go back and look at or do my due diligence on what the Essence Festival is really about. You know what I mean? I didn't find nothing offensive to it, but what I do find offensive is places to do stuff and is places not to do stuff. So at the moment when I saw it, I couldn't determine if the Essence Festival was a place to do it or not, because I didn't really know the Essence history on what their values was or what their core values was or what they believed in and what actually showed. Come to find out, it's supposed to be, a black excellence. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you have to understand that, the people that's 50 and 60 and 45 now, we do shit different from the people that's 25. And even though we at my age, like to criticize the young people for doing what they do all the way around, Alice, they just not gonna do shit like we did it or how we expect them to do it. You know what I mean? So with me saying all that is, you know, definitely can't knock Janelle Monet. She just was based. She wasn't twerking. She was just, aiding the bed and, clapping and, but at the same time, man, the crowd you do have a crowd of people that want to see that shit. So, I mean, I can't sit here and denounce her or say, she did something wrong. But at the same time, I do believe that it is a time and place for everything.
Well, I understand Megan Thee Stallion's pretty much whole career is based and built off of her being very sexual and showing that freak side. Now, Janelle Monet, I've been following this chick for over a decade, and she used to be very reserved.
No
But
doubt, no doubt.
last several months, she's been getting a little bit more sexual. She even, I think she went topless at some public event one day, or took her shirt off. Or I was like, wow, I didn't even know. I never even knew what Janelle Monae's body looked like because she dressed so conservative and she
Right.
didn't. But yeah, she's. I think she's going the route like, hey, this is probably better for my career.
No doubt. Listen, Alex. At the end of the day, man, these people trying to sell records. You know what I mean? And then when they see Megan Thee Stallion come through shaking that ass, selling a whole bunch of records along with Lotto and the rest of them that's doing a whole lot of freaky shit because, you know, the 50-year-olds aren't buying Megan Thee Stallion albums. It's the 30 and under who's really going out there. I'm talking about 15 to 30 is really who's supporting, these new genre people, and they buying a whole lot of them or downloading a whole lot of these records. Opposed to Indian Irie put a song out right now. It's only so many of us gonna go buy an album. You know what I mean? The rest of us gonna look at it on YouTube a few times, and that's gonna be that. So when you talk about the business side of it and you talk about the reality side of it, sometimes these artists do got to go do a little things more raunchier because this is what the crowd want nowadays. If you listen to even the rap lyrics of female rappers, you would have never heard some of the stuff that come out of Megan's mouth come out of MC Light mouth, bro. You know what I mean? Not in a million years. But at the same time, Lil Kim set the tone. Her and Foxy Brown, that shit took off, and now these women are selling millions of records and making millions of dollars. So, if you go look at, Nicki Minaj pockets and you go look at, MC Light pockets, it is different. And I do think it's to the, them catering to what the young crowd want to hear. So, but on the flip side, us being, 50, year old men, we do look at it different. We do look at the conservativeness. We do want to see some wholesome shit, you know what I mean, at these Essence festivals and things of that nature, because that's what they were built on. So that's my take on it.
Well, we've always had the Little Kims, we've always had the Trinas, we always had the Adina Howards, but at least we had other options to choose from. Today, every single female, even the cute little one that I like, Ice Spice, they all in the same genre. They're all on that
Yeah.
freaky sexual. How many female rappers that are, in the top 10 aren't in that genre? I can't think of any.
Yeah, I was going to say probably none, but that's what the culture has come to, and it's not just with female rappers; it's in totality of the young generation. Who's to blame for the for the turnaround? Is there somebody to blame for the turnaround? But unfortunately, like you say, man, nowadays, man, if they ain't talking about deep throat and some shit, these dudes don't want to hear it.
Well, let me read a couple of quotes from India Arie. She said that the issue is what is context. Humanity does everything, but does everything belong in a stage? No. Is everything for kids? No. Is everything for everybody? No. So when we see a culture make something like this mainstream, it shows a lack of discretion and discernment. And for those who don't know, Ndiari is 47. She's almost in that 50-year-old category. So do you think this is a reflection of the age she's at, or is just her whole, this is who she is, because she's always been like this. Even when she was 20 years ago, she was like this.
Yeah, but at the same time, I felt a sense of, I ain't gonna use the word hate, but I think she used the wrong term when she said, this don't belong in the mainstream. No, I belong in the mainstream if this what the mainstream is ready to accept. She don't belong in the mainstream no more if the mainstream say we don't want no more India Irie. So you can't speak for the mainstream. You know what I mean? So I think that was the only issue I had with what she said there, to say this don't belong in the mainstream. Man, you got white folks out there. You got old white women on YouTube and TikTok twerking and doing certain things. Tides are turning. You know what I mean? So when you say the mainstream, you mean that these people, whatever they doing, whether it's rapping, twerking, stripping, whatever they doing, don't belong, and they should still be in the back room somewhere. They should still be in a private party somewhere that don't allow them to monetize their talent as they should. So I get what India Irie saying. But when she said it don't belong in the mainstream, if this what the mainstream is buying, then it belongs there, Alex. That now if she had said it don't belong at the Essence because of the history of the Essence, this wasn't what it was. Don't forget the Essence Awards, the one posted this on their Instagram. So Essence must don't mind because they don't want the Instagram post that I saw was from Essence. So that's all I'm saying. I do respect India Irie. I love her music. She is old school like us, and times are changing, man, and just the mainstream itself is changing. So.
Well, she must have expected people like you to say that she might be hating, because she also continued to say is, I love Janelle and I love Meg the way I love us all, and I don't like this movement. Don't bother debating me. I don't care, and I do this for 25 years. I've done this. So read, ponder, or don't. And I'm gonna have to say I somewhat agree with her. I think the mainstream is supposed to be family friendly. I think the mainstream is supposed to be for all people. And are we saying, FG, that twerking on stage and having a thong on and shaking those ass cheeks is for everybody to watch now?
I don't believe that, but at the same time, Alex, you still got South Park on TV. You still got Family Guy. You still got some shows that they ain't twerking, but they be saying some shit, homie, that's definitely, uh, um, raunchy and shouldn't be in the mainstream as well. So it's a long list of shit if we was gonna just go with them shaking their ass that we would put into that, bundle into that list. Don't get me wrong. Also, I did read some of the comments from the Essence video, and it was a lot of women disappointed in Essence for, having these type of artists at the Essence. You know what I mean? So Essence get to choose, I believe, who comes and performs. I don't know if this was at a side show, they were just there at a side club, or was this the main stage at Essence? But a lot of people criticize Essence because it was always a classy venue, with the Erica Badu's and the Lauryn Hills and things of that nature, and people loved it. But if the numbers start dwindling when the Eric Badu's and the Lauryn Hills was performing and start spiking when you start putting Megan on stage and other things, then Alex, you know how this go as far as the finance part, the money part of it. They gonna go where the money is. You know how I go. Now, morally, I get what you're saying. Ass cheek shouldn't be on mainstream TV, and just like they shouldn't be saying bitch on a regular radio like they can do now and get away with it. As well as nigga on the radio. And no, those things aren't for mainstream. But unfortunately, this is what it's come to.
Well, the Family Guy was definitely a little raunchy. Or was it what show did you quote
South Park.
earlier? I'm sorry, South Park. That South
South
Park
Park.
show was
Yeah.
wild, but we had other choices. We didn't have to stick to South Park. Whereas now, if I want to listen to a sister rap, there is no way I can get through any
Right.
female's album without some bullshit. So now we're saying that, for example, pornography gets more views, gets more eyeballs, gets more attention than non-pornography. Are we going to say at some point porn is going to be part of the mainstream form of entertainment that is going to be on all our platforms in the future?
No, maybe not, but TV is starting to get skimpier and skippier on the outfits, and I don't know if you watch porn, Alex, you probably don't, but I do. They get millions and millions of views. So
That's what
somebody's
I'm
watching.
saying. But what
So my point is it could eventually not fully make its way to the mainstream, but at the same time, by way of twerking and by way of Janelle Monet having her breasts out somewhere, is slowly working its way into it, bro, and that's how it go, but it'll never fully be there. But I'm agreeing with you on the aspect of what it should be. I'm just understanding the fact of what it is. You feel me?
Well, if we stay on this trajectory, what I'm saying about porn is, are we going to see porn on Netflix? We'll be able to get it on Apple TV. Are we going to be able to go on Hulu and watch porn? Because right now, if you want your porn, you got to go into the non-mainstream platform.
Right. No, you're right. You're
So,
100% right. But yeah,
and
unfortunately, yeah.
I know how popular porn is, but shit, I hope we don't make that shit mainstream. Because if I'm getting porn on my Netflix, I'm gonna unsubscribe from from Netflix.
Right. No, I got you. I got you.
All right. Well, this, you know what, this ties into another sort of music hip hop topic, and it's Ice-T and KRS One were recently quoted as saying that the current state, they're not really happy with the current state of hip hop. It's time for this generation to get a hold of itself. I was wondering if you tapped in with a couple of those articles. I wasn't able to find any clips, but I read a couple articles where they quoted both Ice-T and KRS One about the current state of hip hop.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I seen look a few separate clips on, what they each said. They each had their opinion. They had some good points as well. So I did see it. Yeah.
Is this a matter also of 50 plus year old guys complaining because they're too old now?
To a point it is, but this is the thing about it. I'm not gonna say complaining. I'm gonna say pointing out the fact of just like the OGs in the hood. They gonna point out the fact of what it was when they started it. And seem like they can't understand what it has become. I just come to the realization that a 50-year-old man and a 25-year-old man or a 23-year-old man just not going to have the same ideology. I was around when hip hop started, and I'm around today, so I get just like these do, so I get to see the transition. Just like everything else, Alice, it goes the way it goes.
But one of Ice-T's main quotes was that when they were rapping in the 80s, the whole goal was, even though they were hood, the whole goal was to kind of like make our money and then leave the hood and get out of the hood and strive to be above the hood. He says today these rappers are doing the opposite. They're getting the money, they're getting $1 million, and they're going even more hood. And I think that's a legitimate complaint.
No, no doubt. It's definitely a legitimate complaint because, now you realizing that it ain't the money. Now you realizing that, you know what I mean? It's a lot of people who, if they just was to inherit a certain amount of money, some shit just wouldn't change. You know what I mean? Throwing picnics in the hood at the park probably wouldn't change. No matter how much money they had, they want to keep it, in their roots and then in what they really feel about it. I sometimes feel, that when a person gets a certain amount of money, and they leave and just never come back or never help out a brother that's from where they came from or things of that nature. I believe their heart was never in it. They just did it to survive or was around just for protection or to survive. And once they was able to figure out a way, they left and they never came back. They never came back to. And like I said, you don't owe nobody nothing as far as financially, but have you ever come back to talk to a little homie about getting out the hood? Have you ever came along, help somebody get a job or give somebody a job at your corporation because you the boss now? The dudes who just pack up to me and leave and never come back, never didn't have that shit in their heart in the first place, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what it shows me. Now, as far as Ice-T and KRS One, KRS One come from the Bronx where it started. So they vision when it started, they never vision, the average rapper dude can go out and amass $1 million over damn near overnight. That wasn't their vision. They had a different vision. Rap went corporate. A lot of money came with it. At the same time, they didn't get that rap money like these dudes is getting now. So that could be also the reason they feel a certain way.
Well, I know that Ice-T has been able to parlay his career into a television acting career and a movie career as well. I guess he's been somewhat successful outside of rap, but there was a let me read this quote from the article, and this also is related to the Essence Festival. This is where they gave their interview where Ice-T said, "Look, my generation, we lost Tupac, we lost Biggie, and we got the memo. Everybody calm down. We all figured this out. We were rapping to get out of the streets. But the youngsters who are out here behaving like that, these kids are millionaires. So I don't know how many young people got to get lost. I don't know which one might trigger that message, but I think it's time for this generation to get a hold of itself." And one interesting thing about that, after after Pac and Biggie was killed, everyone on the West Coast was scared to go to the East Coast, and everyone on the East Coast was scared to go to the West Coast because they didn't want to get killed. And it was probably the most peaceful period in hip hop that followed it. But nowadays, any rapper can get killed today, and it doesn't really change much tomorrow. It is bizarre, and I have to agree with Ice-T 100% on that.
Well, he got a point there, but you just have to understand when KRS and them came out rapping, they were battle rapping, they was hip hop, you know, um, they disrespecting they raps was a metaphor about how good of a rapper you wasn't. You know what I mean? Nowadays, little dudes are literally talking about, murdering the ops. You know what I mean? And so it's just become so different. It allowed, gang banging on wax, to translate into real life, and a lot of these dudes who come up in today's era come up with a mind state. KRS One and then they was the originator, so they had their own mind state about where it was. Now getting poverty and things of that nature. Now these dudes out here nowadays, they just want to shine, they just want to floss because of that mainstream puts that out there that that's the cool thing to do, drive a Bentley, have a Rolex, this is what they desire. You know what I mean? Only few of them desire to go buy up some property and lock down some apartment units and do certain things with their money, because of the mindset that they have, that balling and being in the limelight to them is more important than, having a savings.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of hard to predict where hip hop is going to go in the next 5 years, but it doesn't look like it's going anywhere positive. It's going to take something significant. I mean, when Tupac and Biggie got killed 6 months from apart from each other, I saw a major change in the way that people respected each other from the East Coast to the West Coast. I remember Snoop Dogg was reaching out to the East Coast, and rappers from the East Coast like Mobb Deep and Nas was reaching out to the West Coast, and just trying to just take this culture to the next level peacefully. But that don't even seem like it's a goal nowadays. Even we just saw PNB Rock got killed. Pop Smoke from New York came to LA, got killed. It doesn't seem to trigger any sort of movement into another direction. I feel like hip hop has no leadership.
No, I agree with you 100%. But at the same time, Alex, we have to understand that we could in a generation right now where ain't no leaders, or let me back up. You have leaders, it ain't no followers. You know what I mean? Because everybody in their mind is a boss now. Everybody in their mind is a general now. Everybody in their mind don't understand the pecking order, you know what I mean? Because they didn't grow up in a structure. You know what I mean? And when I say the structure, when you grew up in the Bronx, homie, it was a structure in the Bronx. It was a structure in Philly. You know what I mean? It was a structure in Compton, LA, Watts, Linwood, Long Beach. It was a structure. And the structure was that when you mess up in the hood, you was going to have to answer that because we can come knock on your mama door and tell you to meet us around at the park. You know what I mean? So it was the same way coming up with rappers. You in the Bronx and you in the crew and you say something disrespectful to somebody from another a borough or something, the homies in the Bronx finna come holler at you because they could just come right to your projects and get at you. Nowadays, Alex, with these rappers, along with these gang members, they how can I say they can do it from their basement. You know what I mean? They not in the street actually battle rapping. They in their basement making diss songs. They from a gang that they can't name 4 or 5 streets from. That allows them to be disrespectful. That allows them to not have to answer to the pecking order, answer to the big homies or answer to the structure. So that's why it is how it is today. Do I believe that the murder rap is going to die out? I do. I believe conscious rap is going to come back at some point, man, to where, um, the murder rap, just like a whole lot of, gangster rap, it died out. The South came and got it. The West Coast had it. The South came and got it. The East had it. The Midwest, I believe it's going to come a point to where conscious rap is going to come back, man, and start making dudes really, start focusing on black, and I don't know what it's going to take, but I do believe that that structure going to come around.
Do you think Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole could come bring people together and say, "Man, this is not the trajectory that we supposed to have hip hop on"? Are they too young? Can an Ice-T and a KRS One bring a lot of the younger generation together, or are they too old? Like what is the path to move this culture in the right direction?
Well, I mean, you got to look at it right now from even, you talking about entertainers. You talking about, Ice-T, don't get me wrong. He was originally from the streets along as KRS One, originally from the Bronx, but they are so far removed from it. You know what I mean? So when you even break it down, when you go Kendrick Lamar, let me tell you, man, I never hear a Kendrick Lamar song on the radio ever. You know what I mean? I don't even know where to go get Kendrick Lamar music. I don't even hear when it come out to go try to listen to a song. That's how moved away he is from like the media that the media they're gonna put out Polo G and Nipsey and the negative shit, because don't forget white society is pushing that as well, Alex. It's an agenda, for the gangster shit to get pushed like it do, and the Kendrick Lamar don't. Now, when you go to the Grammys, that's when you're going to see Kendrick Lamar because he done said some shit that went over everybody's head and nobody even was able to listen to because it was positive. Now, on the flip side, let's take me and you. I mean, Alex, we actually actively be in the streets. We be at picnics, we be at functions, where OG homies at, where little homies there, we get a chance to really talk to the young homies and to the older dudes. And as you can see, it's a disconnect because the older homies see things in the way they saw things. The new homies are saying, well, nah, homie, these dudes is coming over here shooting at us every day. What we supposed to do? Hold up white flags or talk peace when we getting shot? So it's a difference in ideology. It's going to have to be some kind of something that comes along and grasp the mind of the young dudes, the young people, to try to change their mindset on, black is black, or you know what I mean. The violence need to be stopped in some kind of way. So that's what I believe. I don't know what it's gonna take, but I just believe something gonna come through and wake us up. Whether it's the Kendrick, whether it's rap, whether it might not even be from rap, but I hope some come through and get a hold of it.
Yeah, you mentioned the Grammys. A lot of the times when they do the Grammys and you hear all the artists that are presented, half the time you're like, man, I never even heard of this dude. In fact, there's a dude that won a Grammy over Chris Brown, and Chris Brown went to Twitter saying, "How did I lose this Grammy to this dude I ain't never heard of?" But it
Right.
turned out the dude was talented, the dude was skillful, and maybe they're promoting a lot of the raunchy stuff and all of the skillful, talented artists like the Kendricks and like the guy that Chris Brown lost to. I don't even know the guy's name that Chris Brown lost to, but maybe they sticking them in the back somewhere so we don't get to see their hear their music and start thinking differently about these artists who are, I don't know, conscious artists, we'll say,
Right.
rather than, are they pushing these other artists on us? Are they forcing this on us? Is that what it is? Is there a conspiracy to say we're gonna take all this I don't know, this very devilish demonic music and we're gonna put it front and center, and all that other good shit we're just gonna put it in the back and they're gonna have to find it on their own?
Hey, haven't they been doing that for hundreds of years, Alex? Like you said, they gonna put it put it in the book. They gonna put it in the back. They gonna put it in the hell. Yeah, it's a conspiracy, and they gonna push this mainstream, and they gonna push this bullshit. Well, I ain't gonna even call it bullshit because I listen to it too. We gonna call it the drill music. You know what I mean? The drill music. They gonna push it, Alex. They gonna make these young gangbangers millionaires because they know what young gangbangers do with money. They gonna buy guns from the hood. They gonna, the gang problem gonna turn up because of the money. If you go back, because I come from the 80s, bro, you know what I mean? Well, everybody was broke. It was only a few dudes with money. Before the guns and pistols, when dudes wasn't no ARs out there, wasn't no I become before the 9 millimeters was on the street. When dudes had 32s and 38s and only one or two homies had them. You know what I mean? The rest of you was fighting. You know what I mean? Getting bottles and sticks and knives. Wasn't nobody just, I remember those days. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, basically, without the money, it was more love. It was more, when that money came, the hatred came, the more people able to fund street wars. And these people know that. So at the same time, man, they're going to get a right or the wrong person, they're going to get a right, wrong person for them a bunch of money and know what they're going to do with it. So yeah, they pushing the conscious shit to the back.
Hey, I remember I asked somebody for a strap one day in the 80s, and he said, "All right, I'll get you a strap." He brought me a strap that shot 2 bullets. I said, "What the hell am I supposed to do with this
Yeah,
gun?"
yeah,
You ever heard
yeah,
that
yeah.
two shot little pistol?
No, no doubt, no doubt. I told the homie the same thing, man. I need a heat. He brought me a 38 with some tape on the handle, but you had to hold it to the side because the bullet, the revolver part, it just fall out. It just fall. You had to hold it to the side, and that's what I'm talking about. But so nowadays, man, you got rap artists with millions of dollars. They can fuel a war, they can fuel ammo, they can buy a box of ARs for their homies. And these people know that. You know what I mean? So. At the end of the day, man, it's gonna take us to get it right. Now, back to the Ice-T, the rap thing, and all that. I do believe rap is going to come around, man. To people going to get tired of the murder, 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 the drill, 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 and you're going to have to once again say something in your rap songs to get by.
Yeah, man, it's hard for me to really vibe with any of the current rappers, but I like J Rock. J Rock is hit a gangster rap, but when you listen to some of the stuff he's saying, I could respect where he's coming from with the music. I listen to all the J Cole. I like this one singer named Six Black, but man, ain't too many of these musicians. I like Ice Spice, but now she seems like she's going the Nicki Minaj, the Megan Thee Stallion route. She's going full throttle on it. So I was a little disappointed when I seen
She
her.
wants some money, Alex. She wants some money, man, and
She
she
don't
know,
even
you
need
know
to
what I
do that.
mean. You know,
She don't
hey,
even
hey,
need to
man.
do that.
Yeah, I feel you, but you know they want that bread, man. You know, and so, you know, at the end of the day, man, a lot of these artists just gonna do what they do to get the. Some of them I believe in a whole lot of different ways. It's a lot of drug dealers didn't want to sell drugs; they just wanted some money. You know what I mean? It's a lot of bank robbers didn't want to rob a bank, but they wanted some money. You know, a lot of these people, this stuff ain't in their heart, Alice. They wanna get the dollar. You know what I mean? So, um, Ice Spice could be just, you know, one of them. She could keep going in the way she been going, but you know, she gonna flip it a little bit, grab an extra audience, grab it. Cause I'm just starting to hear of her again. I ain't heard of Ice Spice and hadn't heard of her. Now I'm everything I'm turning to, I'm seeing Ice Spice, Ice Spice, Ice. So, you know, whatever she's doing is working because she now in the media more than for me, more than I've ever seen her.
Yeah, I mean, she what was working was that she was cute and she had a catchy tune, and that's all she got to do is find a catchy tune and look cute. Now she's shaking her ass, and it looks like she's going that route with Cardi B and all the rest of them. She's going the stripper route. At least Cardi B was really a stripper. You know, she came from that world. You got it was real when it was coming from Cardi B, but now these young girls are like, okay, this is what I got to do to structure myself as a successful artist, and it's disappointing, man.
Nah, no doubt, bro. But hey, you know, it's here. You know, like I say, it's here, bro. So you know, we gonna watch the wave, see what it come out of it. You know, one thing about it is more or less like they can't shake their ass forever. So I guess they gonna grab the money while they can, and by the time that ass shaking is over for them, they got enough money to go live their lives and take care of their families and stuff.
Yeah, and then 20 years from now, they're gonna be saying, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have did that. It probably wasn't the best thing." Once they got their kids and the family, but hey, Lil Kim ain't never, she ain't never changed. Huh? She's what 50? She's probably 50 something years old.
Hey, that's one of my favorites too. But she keep it gangster. I'm from that era. You know what I mean? So that's another thing about music. I don't like some of the new music because I'm old. I like that '90s, gangster rap. You know what I mean? Along with the conscious stuff that they did back then. I can go both ways. But like I say, us getting older, I'm not gonna like the same thing as my 20-year-old son. Like, he's a huge NBA young boy fan, and I just don't see what he like. But he know every lyric. That's his thing. That's who he like. So hey, what can we say, Alex?
I know, man. Hey, it is what it is. Hey, you know what I did was I exposed one of my sons was really into hip hop, really into rap. My youngest son loved rap. So I noticed this. So when he was young, I used to put him on these different albums. I put him on the Rakim album.
Mm-hmm.
I put him on the Illmatic Nas 93 album. You know, I threw that 87 Paid in Full album. And
Mm-hmm.
before I knew it, my youngest son was like 12, 13 years old, only listening to 80s hip hop. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
he could understand and see the origins of where hip hop came from and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate listening to an album from 1987 like EPMD or
Yeah,
Rock.
yeah.
So
I loved
uh,
all them dudes. Yeah.
I think most of the kids nowadays, they don't even go back and listen to some of the stuff from the 80s, the 90s, and then catch up to what it is now. They just go straight to what it is now. They don't go back to the past. Even
Right.
when I was young, we listened to Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was
No
before
doubt,
my time.
man. Way exactly. But we
But I
still
knew,
listen to it.
yeah, we
Yeah.
still listen to Marvin Gaye. James Brown
Yeah.
was before my time. I still listen to James Brown.
Temptation, dramatics, all them dudes, yeah, but we still got the ear for that when we hear it, man.
But I don't think they're doing that nowadays. Even listening to 90s music, I don't really hear a lot of young people doing. But all right, let's get on because we could talk about we could talk
Yeah,
about this
yeah, we do that
a
all
whole
day. Yeah,
episode.
what we got next?
Hey, I wanted to talk about something that's closer to your world, man, the motorcycle world, man. But this is
Hmm.
a story out in Texas, man. Hey, this motorcycle stuff here in LA is always unpredictable. I remember the homegirl told me she was at this motorcycle spot on Broadway, and
Mm,
somebody got to running up in there, and they got to blasting, and she got hit. She got hit just sitting in the motorcycle spot, and
mhm,
it can get dangerous up in these around this motorcycle shit. I know we don't want to. We want to say that most of these brothers is not about that, but let me share this headline here of what happened out in I think it was Texas, and The headline reads Outcast. Oops, I shared the wrong one. This story reads Motorcycle Violent Georgia Motorcycle Gang. See, I don't like the heading already because I guarantee you most of the time this group ain't violent. It just they ended up getting into something at some point. But Violent Georgia Motorcycle Gang operates near military bases, recruits military personnel. This is a story from this week out in a group called the Outcast Motorcycle Club, which claims to have 67 chapters
Damn.
nationwide. Founded in 1967 in Detroit, a whole bunch of these guys got presented. Now got arrested. Now here's one. Here's my question. They're considered one percenters. So I guess the one percenters are quote unquote like the gangsters of the motorcycle crew, but where most motorcycle crews don't consider themselves one percenters. Is
Right,
that
that's
is that
basically
correct?
what it is. 99% of when they can go to 1%ers, 99% are, or law abiding, going by the motorcycle association rules. The 1%ers is the ones who they not going by none of those rules. They gonna do what they gonna do.
Okay, so that's this group here, the Outcast motorcycle crew. They're considered one percenters. So
Mhm.
I guess this would not be unusual from a one percenter motorcycle crew.
Well, not at all, but just the difference with these guys are, when you talk about LA, you talk about a lot of ex gang members and a lot of drug, ex drug dealers and things of that nature. Not all, but that's what you think of. These crews, these dudes were ex military. And so they had I read this article or read another article on it. They actually showed some of the guys who were involved in this club right here. You had ex sergeants, ex a lot of military dudes a lot of dudes been over to Iraq and Afghanistan. A lot of dudes that had tactical awareness. Within the military that's in this club, that this particular one in Georgia. So I didn't know that they were one percenters, but at the same time, man, it now the stories are starting to add up by what's going on with these dudes.
Yeah, I got a clip here I want to play because apparently a bunch of these guys got arrested out in Georgia, and there was a shooting, and it was pretty serious. Here's the clip.
On begins with 2 people dead and a dozen facing charges after a shooting in Augusta. It happened just before 8 o'clock Saturday night on Sandbar Ferry Road. Investigators say 30-year-old Keith Coates and 51-year-old Jermaine Farrell.
Sorry, got a glitch in the clip, but basically there was a shootout in Augusta, Georgia, that's connected to this same motorcycle crew, and the police done arrested a whole bunch of these dudes. And my question is, it's sometimes the non one percenters, at least here in LA, I've heard it a few times, they get into it as well. And I don't know if it's motorcycle crew versus motorcycle crew, or it's just one guy against another guy in a personal dispute. Sort of like the gang world. Sometimes it's we want to avoid the set tripping because it's between two dudes, but then sometimes the set tripping is inevitable. It's going to turn out to be gang A versus gang B. Is it similar in this motorcycle world?
No, no doubt. You got to really understand that a lot of the guys that's in the motorcycle world are, like I say, from the street. Not all, but a lot. You know what I mean? So a lot of the dudes that like myself then got mature enough to, like you say, you ain't out gang banging or nothing like that. Certain parks you ain't trying to be at night, or certain functions where gang members frequent. You not trying to be there. You know what I mean? So, the ideology was like more or less like if you could afford a Harley Davidson or, a nice bike, then you was mature enough, you had responsibilities that when you ride in a motorcycle clique or hook up with a motorcycle club, that it's on some mature shit. Unfortunately, like I had to tell a young cat, recently, at a motorcycle club, because he referred to, me and a couple dudes as some old cats, I had to remind him that, you know what I mean? I asked him a question. I said, man, when was the murder rate at an all-time high in Compton? He was like, that would be the, early 90s. You know what I mean? I said, that's when I came up. That's when we came up. You know what I mean? That was our era. So don't forget who you talking to, bro. It ain't like dudes forgot how to fight or forgot how to be rowdy. That ain't what we choose to do. Unfortunately, though, you have a mixture of so many gang members out on the set. Sometimes you run into a dude that, killed one of your homies or something, and you just can't accept it. And that's when the bullshit starts. Or, a lot of the times it's over these females, dudes fucking with the same female, dudes don't know how to hold their feelings, you know what I mean? Because, a female messing with 2 or 3 dudes. So and a mixture of alcohol, which that triggers the effect anywhere, so, but for the most part, the bike set tried to be the lowrider set. They tried to be a mature audience with a mixture of all kind of gang members and things of that nature who matured enough to not be tripping off gang stuff. But at the same time, on the flip side, some of these motorcycle groups do get into it with other motorcycle groups, and it causes a beef within 2 clubs and shit. That's like gangbanging.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see if I could play the rest of this clip here to get the rest of the story. Here we go.
Brad, Jenny, the sheriff pointed out of those 12 people who were arrested, those suspects, only one person is local. Last weekend was a major weekend for Augusta with 2 events happening in the city. But he says they had no way of knowing that the shooters were crossing the state line to do harm.
We didn't know that trouble was coming to our city. We didn't know trouble was already in our city.
A big weekend in Augusta. From the Augusta Air Show's 20-year return to the music event of the year, Mayfest. Both events a success, but not long after, the sheriff's office was responding to a mass shooting in East Augusta on Sandbar Ferry Road and East Boundary. It's right where the Outcast Motorcycle Club is located. That beef, he says, started in another state and played out during the Outcast cookout.
It is our belief that this incident stemmed from an incident that recently occurred in Florida involving the Outcast, and the Thug Riders came to Augusta in retaliation to that incident.
The sheriff's office arrested and charged 12 people with murder and aggravated assault. You see 10 people on your screen now of those 12. 4 were taken to the hospital. 3 remain there. 2 people died from the shooting.
4 of the suspects were members of the Outcast Motorcycle Club, and 8 were members of Thug Riders.
All right. Hey, I wonder if this was the black motorcycle crew.
I was looking today on you. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Versus the white motorcycle crew. I think the black motorcycle crew. I never heard of these guys. The Thug Riders.
Right.
In Florida, did they ride? Did the brothers in Florida ride all the way to Georgia to get some get back?
Well, I don't know if it was the brothers or who came from Florida, but whoever came from Florida, they came to get some get back, bro. You know what I mean? They definitely came down there, all the way from Florida on their bikes, rode out there, man. And, but I guess the Outcast was out there and they put in some work or something while they was down there. This is classic, hood shit on motorcycles. But these dudes aren't even gang members, though, Alex. You know what I mean? Like, they not street members. These dudes, I know the Outcasts, most of them is military, so it just goes to show you that you could not even have a street background, but when you hook up with these motorcycle clubs, and you become basically in some part, a gang per se,
Yeah, so eight of these people are from one of the motorcycle crews, and 4 of the are from the other one. So my guess is that it's hard to say, but
yeah, it's hard to say, man.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but hey, it sounds like some classic gang banging, but it's from crossing state lines.
Yeah, but that's gonna bring another set of charges. You know what I mean? That cross state line, or if they feel that Outkast went down there and did some across state lines, that's gonna be an extra charge. If I'm not believing, they got these dudes on a lot of counts. You know what I mean? Each person got 14, 13 counts of something. So some gonna stick. You know what I mean?
Hey, you remember the one we spoke about this before, the shooting that happened in Texas between 2 motorcycle crews. I don't know how many people got killed, but they arrested like 100 guys.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they ended up dropping charges against all of them because no one spoke.
Nobody told, homie. Nobody spoke on, and they all got away. Yeah. Because in these incidents, it's hard to pin down who was the shooter, who was the victim, who was, you could tell who the victim if somebody was shot, but when the 20 people shooting at 20 people, who actually was doing the shooting, so it's hard to get that in a court of law without somebody telling who it was. And since nobody spoke, they couldn't even press forward with the charges, which is rare. I gave them super props on that. This situation right here is unfortunate, man, because at the same time, man, when a man go out, especially myself, go out to ride my motorcycle, Alex, it's to go out, man, and let my hair blow in the wind, bro, and and have a good time, man, and you know what I mean, and not for violence. I do like to congregate, places where other motorcycle people frequent, you know what I mean, but at the same time, like you say, everybody there want to make it back home to their family, homie, want to make it back home to, go to work so they can pay their mortgage and do what they got to do. But unfortunately, as in other places, bullshit kick off.
Yeah, it's always risky when you have former Bloods and former Crips together. Now, most of the time, nothing happens. Everything goes cool. You're dealing with people that are 40 and over most of the time. But there's like maybe 1 out of 20 times you bring Bloods and Crips in the same space, something gonna pop off, and that's why I kind of like don't like going to some of those motorcycle venues that they have down on Broadway, and they're always throwing parties. I've been to a couple of them, but it's just too risky for me to pop up at these spots.
No, I feel you, but at the same time, Alice, it's not usually the dudes who own the motorcycle set. It's dudes who come up to the motorcycle set. You know what I mean? Dudes, gang members that's bored. Let's go up here and see who in our hood at this motorcycle function. That's how it go. Most of the motorcycle clubs know these same dudes as in other motorcycle clubs because you see them time and time again at everybody function. Not to mention, I believe everybody club mostly is integrated with Bloods and Crips. You know what I mean? So when you in a situation like that, you're going to ride with your club member before you just riding on some other dudes because they're opposite gang member. You know what I mean? Now, I've been hanging out with some club dudes that I ride, hang out with, and some of the homies then came up there, don't even own bikes, don't got nothing to do with the motorcycle scene, on some gangbanging shit. You know what I mean? And I'll step forward, check this out, homie, this motorcycle shit. You know what I mean? If you want a gang, there's plenty of gangbangers out in LA. You know what I mean? And, but sometimes, that's what happens, bro. It's a lot of times gangbangers come up to the motorcycle functions. It's not the dudes who actually in the biker and in the bike clubs against each other.
Yeah, it's always the outside agitator, and that's what I mean is that there's no control of like I don't own a bike, but I'll be invited to these spots and they be having parties,
right.
But I'm not an agitator. But I know if I'm invited, that means that the next guy's invited, and you never know which outside agitator is going to be there to stir the pot up. But all right, hey, let's go into this last story, man. This was the tragedy out in Philadelphia. And, as long as we got guns in America, as long as we got that Second Amendment, as long as there's nothing to stop someone with a mental case to buy a gun. The only thing that can stop you to buy a gun is a felony conviction. But if you're crazy in the freaking head and everybody knows it, you can pull up to pretty much any gun shop and buy a gun. But they won't sell you a gun, FG. But they'll sell this dude. I don't know if this guy went and bought a gun, but I'm assuming he's not a convicted felon. But they'll sell Kim Brady Carricker. What kind of damn name is that in the first place? Kim Brady. They'll sell Kim Brady a gun so he can go in the streets of Philadelphia and gun down 5 people, but they won't let FG go buy a gun legally because he got caught up in the ridiculous, stupid drug transaction back in 2004. I know that ain't your only one, but I'm just referring to that one, that you got a felony conviction. They won't let you get a gun. I believe that we need to give ex-felons, if they've been clean for 15 years, they should be able to get their gun rights back. But that's a whole nother topic. But right. They let this brother buy a gun, man, and he went and killed I think 5 people.
Yeah, he definitely did. Including a 2-year-old and a 13-year-old, bro. You know what I mean? And that's where I ain't taking murder of innocent people, man. Is as tragic as it is, man. But when you get to talking about them kids, man, I get a little upset about that, man. You know what I mean? You knock down a 2-year-old, bro. You knock down a 13-year-old kid, homie, who haven't even got a chance to understand life yet, and I'm not taking nothing from the street aspects as far as lowrider clubs and motorcycle things. I know in certain shootings that people be grown, people do be ex-members, but when you get to just talking about people jumping out in innocent places, and gunning down innocent people, man, This shit is tragic, man. This shit is tragic, you know. And the cold part about it is, you know, now they want to start talk about the mental aspect of this guy, but there wasn't no mental aspect when he was able to go buy these guns. His family knew that he was getting a little crazier and crazier by the day. Nobody jumped in, Alex, and gave no warning, you know. And unfortunately, man, this dude went out on the streets and just started knocking some things down, and they were able to arrest him. You know, after he killed 5 people, you know, they was able to arrest him, you know. But yeah, it was an unfortunate event over there, man.
All right, let me play this short clip from the local Philadelphia news there. Here we go.
But the big story on Action News at noon is the suspect in the deadly mass shooting in the city's King-Sessing neighborhood, charged with 5 counts of murder. In his first court hearing today, 40-year-old Kim Brady Carricker was charged with a total of 11 offenses. 5 people were killed in that attack on Monday night. We also learned today that the 33-year-old mother and 4 children that survived the rampage were all riding in the same white Jeep. Action News reporter Corey Davis is following the investigation.
The accused shooter in this case appeared in court by video conference and sat quietly as the judge read off the serious charges. Locked up and held without bail, 40-year-old Kim Brady Carricker is now charged with 5 counts of murder, several counts of attempted murder, and a number of other charges, including carrying a firearm without a valid permit. The judge saying in court, quote, "Public safety is clearly an issue. There are no set conditions to ensure the safety of the community." Detectives say Carricker went on a rampage Monday night, shooting 7 people seemingly at random, killing 5 of them. Action News obtained security video being used in the investigation believed to show the shooter firing a high-powered rifle toward an SUV at the corner of 56th Street and Chester Avenue in the city's King-Sessing section. Investigators say a 33-year-old mother sustained cuts to her eye after the suspect fired into a Jeep Cherokee she was driving. We now know a 10-year-old was in the passenger seat and was not injured. 2 2-year-olds were in the back, one of them shot in the leg, the other sustained cuts from shattered glass. Investigators now telling us an officer jumped into the Jeep and drove all of them to Penn Presbyterian Hospital. Action News was there as officers looked into the shattered windows of the SUV parked outside of the emergency room. Families of victims who died are expressing their heartbreak and frustration, including the mother of 22-year-old Lashad Merritt.
You need a ride. You need a ride in jail. You know, you need to, because that was wrong. For a person that's not out here in these streets just going to get a snack, it breaks my heart. I don't know what's wrong with people nowadays. I don't know.
District Attorney Larry Krasner says investigators expect to be able to say more about this case now that the arraignment is over. We're expecting to hear from the district attorney later this afternoon. The next court hearing is later this month. Reporting here in Center City, Corey Davis, Channel 6 Action News.
All righty. You saw how crazy that looked when he was just walking down the street, that footage of him.
Man,
and he
man,
he just
fire,
aired,
man.
Yeah, he aired that car out. But the issue here is mental health, and I don't think there's any laws against people that are suffering from mental illness to go buy a gun. I don't know if there's a couple states that prevent it, but there's really no way to monitor it. It's like if you're a convicted felon, you're in the database. You are in the computer. So when you whip out your ID to go buy a gun, they're going to tell you, nope, you can't do it. But there's no system like that for people who are mentally ill, who maybe have been to the hospital before, who may have had 5150 holds. Hey, if you've had a 5150 hold in the past, that should prevent you from owning any firearms or guns.
No doubt, I agree with you on all that, Alex. That's a good measure of prevention. But at the same time, man, if you got money to buy a gun at the store, you got money to buy a gun on the black market. You know what I mean? They selling ARs out here, bro. You know what I mean? So it's damn near unstoppable. You know, because if he didn't get it at the store, he could have went and got it from Pookie and them. You know what I mean? He might have had to pay $100 extra more, but he could have got it, you know. And it's unfortunate, though, that mental illness can take you this route, you know, take you to the violent route, take you to the want to murder somebody route before somebody else see it as and try to, you know, protect you, arrange you in, or get you some help, You know, unfortunately, by the time people want to help, it's too late. You to murder 5 people. You know, so like I understand the lady is saying her son was gunned down, not doing nothing. You know, she would like to see this guy rot in jail. But I believe this guy been rotting on the inside of his mind probably for years and nobody knew, you know. So no amount of jail time is going to fix the mind state that he have, you know, and it's unfortunate, you know.
Well, I think anybody that knew this dude, and I just found this photo of him. Just from the looks of this photograph, it looks like that this guy may have been struggling with his sexuality. This is a photo of the dude, Kim Brady Carricker. Now, I don't know what kind of name Kim Brady is. That might be a name that he started using, but it looks like he was, I don't know,
Is,
struggling.
is this him?
Yeah, this is a picture that they found of him, and I found a few pictures of this guy.
Mhm.
And I'll post this on the Instagram page for all of our listeners that are listening to us on Spotify, iHeart, and all the other podcast platforms. Just go to the Street and Scholars Instagram, and you will see this photo of Kim Brady Carricker, the alleged gun person. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, gun person, because I'm a little confused a little bit. Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna have to. Hey, we can't even say these terms anymore, like gunman or he's not a
Yeah,
gunman.
yeah, got to say gun person.
He's
You
a
know what I
gun.
mean? Because I'm not sure from this picture. You know, I don't know. You know, but at the same time, unfortunately, this person is the one. You know, they're saying behind the shooting, and man, innocent people lost their lives, man, because this person woke up one day, bro, and said, "This is what I'm gonna go do," and they went out there and did it, man, and that's wild.
Yeah, and I don't think there's no real solution to this problem that we have with mass shootings. Now, you said that you can just pretty much get a gun from anybody, but how many times have we heard of these shootings? They were committed with guns that were purchased by the shooter himself, which is crazy. So maybe some of these could have been prevented if the shooter wasn't able to just easily go buy 3 or 4 guns. It's I know you can go on the streets and get it, but sometimes there's country white guys that are from the middle of Colorado and they don't have the same access that you and I have.
Right. No, I got you. I got to understand that.
We
Yeah.
we could walk out our front porch and
Right.
and order any street gun.
Right.
But
So yeah, you got a point there, you know. But like you say, man, listen, gun people are in the business to sell guns. Their whole thing about it is, Alex, unfortunately, if you check out, they not finna look no further. You know what I mean? You can be coming there and looking crazy as you want to be. If you check out, they gonna sell you that gun, bro. That's what they're there to do. You know what I mean? If you ever notice when you walk in a gun store, they got guns on their hips in the store. You know what I mean? So they ready for your bullshit. They just gonna sell you that gun, going out there about your business. But unfortunately, you know, they not gonna take the extra precaution because they into selling guns. You know, um, man, this world is so crazy, bro. It's just hard to say how can we put a stop to this. I just don't think you can. You know, and it's unfortunately, you know, unless you make some outrageous crazy laws, but it wouldn't even affect this dude because he was able to legally go buy a gun. Say if you say, okay, any felon get caught with a gun getting 20 years, it wouldn't have affected this guy. You feel me? So, you know, so this still would have happened. So making that law don't make it no better. You know, it's just what do you do?
there's really nothing you can do because we have the freedom. The freedom comes with a cost. So we got the freedom to buy guns. We got the freedom to have guns. We want all this freedom with very little restrictions. Okay, that's fine. But every once in a while, we're going to have somebody, run through the streets of your favorite town and kill a few people. Like we talked about the one that happened in Buffalo, where the white dude went to a black community, found him a black supermarket, and killed 10 black people in the matter of like what 2-3 minutes when he ran up in that supermarket. That comes with freedom. You cannot stop a dude that wakes up and says, you know what, I'm about to go to the Ralph's market and I'm gonna try to kill
Mhm.
me as many people as possible today. You can't stop it. It's just it exists within our society, and there's nothing we can do about it, man. I don't know if that sounds cynical, but I feel like it's realistic, and you can't legislate it away. You cannot legislate this problem away.
Right, right. No, no doubt, and it also goes with, because we could talk about the numbers on how many mass shootings it is, from legal gun owners and things of that nature. We could also talk about tied into here. What they don't talk about are the numbers that we don't have, Alex, is the numbers of people who commit suicide with their own gun. That's another gun death, Now, don't get me wrong. You didn't kill anybody else, but at the same time, just gun owners who shooting themselves, so legal guns are behind a lot of murders, so like you say, how you stop it, man?
Well, here's the easiest way to stop it is for every law-abiding citizen to be strapped, so that when you see that crazy dude in Philadelphia walking down the street, pulling out that AR-15, pointing and shooting up traffic, you pull your gun out and you dome him, and at least you save the lives that he would have killed if you weren't present. That's the only way for everybody that's every legal citizen to have a gun. I know that some people disagree with that because it creates like a wild, wild west situation, but I don't think that legal people with guns are irresponsible. I think most of them are responsible gun owners. I would have liked to see somebody out there shooting. This dude definitely deserved to be shot, even though he was suffering from mental illness. But his mental illness took him to the level of killing other people. Therefore, you need to get killed at that point. And if somebody was out there with a legal gun and shooting him, stopping him, then he would have saved, maybe 2 or 3 lives.
Yeah, it's possible, bro. But like I say, this is a solution. I mean, this is a problem that we keep seeing, persistently seeing, in all states, of all colors, all races. You know what I mean? Some hit the news more than other, but this stuff is happening more often than we know. And at the end of the day, this is one thing that I'm stumped. I can't put my finger on where to begin to curve it, and I don't think the judicial system or the legislators or the congressmen, I don't think they have a real solution either because of the freedom like you spoke on earlier. So all we can do, I believe, is hope that, these things be kept to a minimum, you know what I mean? And, the gun violence is curbed. Now you have things of this nature with the mental illness. Then you have the things in almost every state with the gang violence, So you have these guns making what's up, Sam? I see you in there. How you doing? We had these things in so many variations, Alex, that guns in particular, man, and young cats with them, is you go do the numbers, man. We losing a lot of lives behind gun violence as a totality.
The other solution is if some engineers, some bioengineers can come up with some sort of drug protocols that help people's brains get rewired that are suffering from mental illness. Because most of the time when you have a mental illness issue, there's something wrong with the chemistry of your brain. Mm-hmm. And if they can solve that solution, which is they'd become billionaires if they could cure mental illness. Because I think most people that do these mass shootings are suffering from mental illness. Do you think any normal, regular folks decide that I'm so upset today, I'm not suffering from mental illness, I'm just angry? How many people do this out of anger that are not suffering from mental illness? I don't know the numbers, but I think most people are suffering from mental illness. But there could be a couple people that are just, I'm so angry, I'm on one today, I'm about to go kill me some people.
No, no doubt. I'll get you on that one, but let me take this into consideration. It's a lot of people out there who say if they did come up with this super drug to say, okay, we got something to curb mental illness to not make people feel violent and things of this nature, and it don't slow you down and it don't, stop you from functioning. We created the perfect solution. How many people, Alex, are willing to even go get the free dosage if that was possible? How many people are going to willingly admit, or how many people with mental illness know that they're mentally ill? So that would be the first thing first for somebody to step up and say, man, I feel I'm mentally ill, because I believe mentally ill people don't feel like they different. You know, they only thinking what their mind is telling them. You know what I mean? So that would be a whole nother thing. So now, don't get me wrong. You know, as I know, back in the day when Reagan started shutting down the mental institutions and taking money, this stuff started snowballing since then. I don't know. A lot of people might not be old enough to remember that, but he started taking funding from mental illness, having people go to having communities where they would, you know, treat the mental. They all on the street now, and they just letting them be out there. You know what I mean? So you see it every day at every gas station, bro. You know what I mean? We got so used to it, man. They just walk by screaming and cussing, and we just don't pay it no mind. We go on about our day. When back in the day, you know, you could make a call, somebody would come, take them to a facility where they'll get evaluated and get the proper medication and get back on their feet. They not even taking them into the facilities no more. They just letting them wander the street. So unfortunately, man, that we have to deal with this, and this is all across America, man, from like I say, Philadelphia to LA. And you go to every grocery store and go in the back, and there's people back there camped out. These people, a lot of them are mentally ill, and they get no help. So at the same time, once you start addressing, you know, the people that you can help, you know, ain't nothing gonna give.
And then also there's a whole lot of mentally ill people that are nonviolent. Like they would never do anything on the level that this guy did in Philadelphia. So then that poses another challenge, is a differentiating between the mentally ill that are nonviolent and the ones that have the potential to do violence. I remember I knew this actor dude that was on this show called Ray Donovan. And one day he was at Starbucks and he had a mental health crisis, and the LAPD ended up taking him to some place in East LA, and I ended up going to pick him up. And I knew this young brother. He was a really nice guy, but he was suffering. But I never got the sense that he was violent. Like I never got that sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but who knows? Maybe one day he would. I'm not a professional or expert in this field that could determine this is a non-violent guy, this is a violent guy. But that's a whole nother challenge, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if we'll be able to get that situation solved anytime soon. But yeah, man, there's a lot of money to be made for people that could solve this solution, cure this solution, I would say. But I don't know how easy that is. Very complex. The brain is one of the most complex organs, and we only know about 5% of the brain. With all the technology we have now, we still don't understand all of the brain. So I don't see this problem getting solved anytime soon, FG.
No, no doubt, you know, but just while we on the subject and for the listeners that we got out there, man, listen, man, if you got family members, you got kids, you got nephews, you got brothers that you feel is having some kind of mental issues, mental illness issues, bro, talk to them. You know, I know it's not a comfortable talk. You know what I mean? But talk to them, man. See if you can get them to get evaluated. See if you can get them to get some help. You know what I mean? I've been in a situation before with friends and family. You know what I mean? And I just happen to be, I've always been, vocal, but everybody is not. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's a hard issue to talk about, Alex. But sometimes you gotta, for the ones, especially if you know they worth it, get them some help, get them to get evaluated, And I know a lot of us not into the medication thing, but at the same time, some of it does help. I've seen it work. I've seen it change people and bring them back to regular status. None of us are 100%. We all, but at the same time, man, get your people some help. Have that hard talk with them and see if you can get them to listen and get them down there to get evaluated.
Hey, my wife believes that all of us are somewhere on
right.
We're all on the spectrum.
We all on the spectrum. Yeah. I heard that same thing, man. Like, oh, y'all crazy, man. Some of y'all know how to control it better than others. I get all that, but now, we talking about the ones who can't control it. The ones who can't make a rational decision in hard moments. Get them some help, bro. Help them out. Get on your folks. You can't save everybody, but get at your peoples, man. See if you can get them some help.
Well, condolences to all the victims in Philadelphia, man. And there's some in the hospital that are in critical condition, so the death count might go up in that one. And hey, where can the people tap in with you, FG?
Man, tap in with me at FG Unleashed, man. I'm over there. You know, I put out videos slow, but you know what I mean? I try to be true to what I do, though. But make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. That's what y'all not doing. Hit the subscribe button, man. Hit the like button on the videos. Bring it into the algorithm. Hit me up on FGeneral1 on Instagram like y'all doing, you know, sending me videos and things of that nature. I appreciate y'all.
And you could tap in with me at Alex Alonso 101. Also, if you're into that show Trafficked on National Geographic Channel, I'm on an episode of Traffic. And if you're into this other show called America's Most Evil on Reels TV, I'm on an episode of that show, which I don't like that show because of the title, America's Most Evil. But a friend of mine that was producing on it asked me to do a favor. I was like, nah, okay. I don't like that show, dude. I don't even like the title. Because they talking about like folks that we know, and they calling it America's Most Evil. But you could tap in on those two shows. And then on YouTube, I'm at Street TV. And make sure you check out some of the video clips that I'll be posting there. And thanks for tapping in with another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.